It's any competition's harshest truth. For every winner that's crowned, there must also be a loser. Match the same competitors against each other often enough, and you're bound to find some big losing streaks. In the 1970s, the NFL's Miami Dolphins went on a 20-game winning streak against the Buffalo Bills. Major League Baseball's Baltimore Orioles, at their peak in 1969 and 1970, won 23 games in a row over the poor Kansas City Royals. The brutal Minnesota Timberwolves teams of the 1990s, yeah, the really terrible ones you never picked an NBA jam, they lost 27 games in a row to the Seattle Supersonics. Shoutouts to Detlef Schrempf. But of course, with every one of sport's longest losing streaks, something eventually gives, right? Some teams are just better, sure, but everybody out there is a professional. No matter how big the skill gap may be over a full season, every team at this level is good enough to win one single game against any other team. No matter how high the mountain may seem, the summit will eventually be reached. But these are games with even playing fields, where pros play against pros and Joes play against Joes, safe from humiliation in their weekend rec leagues. This story is not about that kind of game. This story is about Super Smash Bros. Melee, a 25-year-old fighting game where you could walk into your local and get matched up against the #1 player in the world. And that happens. A lot. Compared to the mountains some people have scaled in Melee, these are mere molehills. This is the story of two Melee players, one who kept winning, and another who kept losing. And losing. And losing. Hey, big thanks to War Thunder for supporting this video. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and it's available now for free on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. You can take command of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of 10 major nations, ranging from biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s to the fighter jets and main battle tanks of today. It also has some of the most sophisticated vehicle damage models in gaming. Every vehicle is modeled down to its individual components, from its engines to its fuel tanks, weapons, crew, and the Bluetooth you just hooked up to the tank to play your favorite tunes. You can join a worldwide community of over 95 million players in epic PvP battles today and delve into the breathtaking experience that is War Thunder. With an unmatched wealth of high-quality content to discover, there is simply no better game suited for fans of military history. So if you're interested, you can use my links in the description to check out War Thunder now. If you're a new or returning player who hasn't played in the last 6 months, you'll get a massive and free bonus pack, which includes exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of a premium account. It's a limited time offer, only available for PC and console players, so don't miss out. Thanks again to War Thunder for supporting the channel, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Our story takes place in the same state as many of Melee's most historic moments, Maryland, the home of Xanadu Games, practically a holy site for Smash in the olden days. Xanadu regularly hosted tournaments for hundreds of players, but a little over 2 hours to the southeast on the Delmarva Peninsula, it is a newsworthy event if Salisbury Smash at Salisbury University in Salisbury, Maryland, are you catching on yet, draws at least a dozen players. These weeklies may be small, but they have a dedicated scene making them happen, led by tournament organizer Rambler. Lukademus, a strong Sheik player, has been practically running their scene for years, winning week after week unchallenged. But then, in February 2020, everything changed. A new challenger arrived. Another Sheik main named Lincoln3. This new competitor made it all the way to Grand Finals, so was this finally a challenger for the great Lukademus? Well, no, not yet at least. And not for a while, it would turn out. The rest of the world had no idea what was going on, but Lukademus was quietly building the longest winning streak that we are aware of in modern Melee. By the time I caught wind of it, it was already pretty unthinkable. Top-level Melee has seen some pretty huge winning streaks, even just restricting ourselves to the Start GG era, which dates back to 2015. Leffen won 17 straight over Professor Pro as a part of his dominance of Europe, Mango won his first 19 sets against Wizrobe, and Hungrybox won 28 sets in a row against Axe. Occasionally, you got some lopsided records between top players in larger regions. Fiction, in his recent dominance of SoCal, won his first 40 sets against Mega Xmas. R2D2 had a 43 set winning streak over Stango, while the two were top players in Philadelphia. Colwell won his first 44 sets over S-Deems at tournaments in Georgia and Florida. And in Minnesota, top Sheik player Ben had a 44-0 set count over Lexor. So you can probably imagine my shock when I saw the numbers on my screen for the Lukademus versus Lincoln3 set count in January 2022, a little less than 2 years after Lincoln3 first set foot into the Salisbury University building that hosts their tournaments. So how bad was it? 50-0? Nah. 60-0? Child's play. 70-0? Keep going. 80-0, you're getting warmer. 90-0, you gotta think bigger, friend. Holy shit. I mean, okay, even in individual pro sports like tennis, head-to-head winning streaks are usually limited by one or both sides' ability to stay at the professional level. Serena Williams' 18-0 streak over Maria Sharapova is one of the highest profile lopsided matchups in tennis history, and there's two parts to that story. Of course, the first is that Williams dominated that matchup, going undefeated for 14 years of competition, but Serena went undefeated against tons of players in the course of her career. She didn't beat most of them 18 times, sure, but the critical other half of this is that Sharapova was also world-class herself for such a long time, constantly going deep enough in tournaments until her bracket demon showed up once again. Now, tennis has thousands of rated players, but only about a few hundred will ever even get access to a tournament game against the top professionals over the course of a year. Open tournaments in tennis are not really open in the same way Smash tournaments are in Melee. A tennis equivalent of an O-Tour is never going to be playing in round 1 of the US Open, even if it were just to get waxed by Serena. Lukademus is not on Serena's level, but Lukademus is probably one of the top 200 to 500 Melee players in the world. He hasn't attended many majors, so it's hard to get a great read on his skill. He took 25th at 2021 SmashCon Fall Fest with losses to Eve and Dark Gen X. In 2022 at the OG Super SmashCon, Lukademus finished 49th in a field nearly 3 times as big, won the run back on Eve, and only fell to Moki and Kevin Maples, who are both top 100 players now. Lukademus isn't really likely to make a top 100, at least in this next year, but looking at those 2 runs, he probably isn't far from many of those on the lower end of these lists when it comes to Melee skill. Lincoln3? When he walked into that room, he was truly just a guy trying to play some video games for fun.
My name's Chuck Morgan. I go by the gamer tag Lincoln3. When I was in school, I got into Melee, and this is pre-rollback and all that, so 2016, and I basically just played net play with my friend Josh every day after class, and that's how we started getting decent, really only playing against each other, and that's all we had to go on. We would watch pro tournaments and think, oh, those guys move so fast, we'll never be that good. I ended up when I moved to Salisbury for a job after school, I got involved in the scene there. I showed up in February of 2020 and went to just 1 or 2 in-person events right before COVID. That's when I played against Luke, and I ended up getting second, only behind Luke. So my very first tournament in Salisbury, it was kind of a rivalry right from the get-go with Luke and I, which was, everybody was kind of huddled around watching, wondering if I was going to give him any problems at the time, which I wasn't back at that time.
It's not hard to understand the motivation of professional athletes who keep coming back after getting their asses handed to them over and over again. They're simply going to work. But Lincoln3, he did this for fun. This is what he did after work, mostly on a weekly basis, for well over 2 years. Thanks to a tweet from Melee's premier meathead/commentator Chroma, the larger Melee world finally got a hold of this story. Lincoln3 picked up a lot of fans that day, including me. Pretty much everybody was rooting for him, but a lot of people had the same reaction. If I were Lincoln3, I would simply not have kept going back. Obviously, as indicated by this set count, Lincoln could not have seen it more differently.
I really didn't view it as what kept me going was the rivalry. I think just supporting the local scene and everybody being together and playing together was it was what I looked forward to every week. So even when I saw like replies and quote tweets, people saying, wow, I'm rooting for him, but I would have given up, or that takes perseverance, but I couldn't keep doing that. And I never felt that way. It wasn't like that to me. We both just showed up every week because we liked playing, and I just wanted to continue improving and be the best player I could be, because I mean, realistically, selfishly, playing against Luke every week is a really good way to get better quickly, despite also with it being a lot of fun.
One of Melee's highest profile winning streaks was snapped in an absolutely crazy fashion right around 2022. Mango was particularly great against Captain Falcon. And yes, the bird has an advantage against the race car driver, but Mango exploited it like nobody who has ever played this game before. According to the now defunct PG Stats admittedly limited character database, Mango had an 85 and 21 game count against the character, a ridiculous 80% game win rate. That means by the numbers, winning a full best of 5 set against him is practically impossible. Between 2014 and 2022, that was the simple reality for Wizrobe. 21 times he had faced off against Mango, and 21 times he had lost. It's not that it was ever completely hopeless. He took his first game in their second ever set at What the Fox. The next year at What the Fox 2, he took Mango to Game 5. It took 7 sets before he did it, but he pushed Mango to the brink of elimination. This happened again at G5 and again once during the Slippy Champions League. Wizzy occasionally knocked on the door, but Mango was always inevitable in this matchup. Their set in the Summit Champions League Season 2 Week 3 bracket looked like another perfect example. Wizrobe somehow salvaged a hopeless seeming Game 1.
Game 1? That's it. That's it. Yeah. Boom. That up air.
And then Mango was Mango versus Falcon.
Mango is so good at this matchup.
You just don't get to come back against him from this position, not when he's up 2 stocks at the Magic percent. This is a set where Wizrobe was as down and out as you can be. It was a set where he lost the first stock of every single game, even the Game 5 he somehow forced from this position. But honestly, we should have known. Nobody beats Wizrobe 22 times in a row.
Oh no, the F smashes are coming out. This is, I feel like,
there it is!
A player, you know, off in the go. He's gonna opening.
No!
Get up, attack!
Oh.
How did it?
Yes,
Wizzy, yes, we agree.
You did it!
But there isn't always a happy ending. Zain and SFAT might make up the most prolific lopsided matchup in today's modern Melee, at least among top-level players. The two first played at Genesis 4 in 2017, and back then Zain was just a fresh face who was about to be revealed as number 66 on the 2016 SSBM rank. SFAT was number 7 in the world at what remains his peak ranking, and also around the time where I was his YouTube editor. Is there a correlation to that? No, but yeah, sure, there is, okay, whatever. But the set looked like it. Zain challenged SFAT and pushed him to a Game 3, but the top 10 Fox did what the top 10 Fox was supposed to do. They'd play 3 more times between then and DreamHack Denver 2017. SFAT would win 2 of them, although he did drop arguably the most meaningful 3-0 loss in losers at Super Smash Con 2017.
Zain, you gotta get out of there!
Oh! And he waits for
Release
the...
it!
And that down air!
Oh
My goodness!
And then, at Pat's House 3, Zain and SFAT met up in losers' quarters.
SFAT is one of the best Foxes in this matchup. He's pretty renowned for that. But I think Zain scares him. I think his technology, the way he plays neutral, the defensive style.
After a back-and-forth set, Zain won Game 5 after claiming all the momentum with this ridiculous juggle into up smash.
Oh!
And that was all we needed, I guess. In the 21 sets they have played on the major stage since Pat's House 3, Zain is 21-0. Now, the point of all of this is to say, sure, Lincoln3 was improving fast, but so was Lukademus. It's a natural feeling to want to believe that if we work hard enough at something that it's guaranteed to happen eventually, but that simply isn't always the case. That's more true than ever in competitive video games where your hard work doesn't just exist independently, but happens alongside the hard work of thousands of others who also love the same game. Week after week, Lincoln and Lukademus kept playing the Sheik Ditto. At some point, Lukademus must have felt the heat, right? After dozens of sets with chain grabs off, it wasn't Lincoln who asked for chain grabs on to close the gap, it was Lukademus to widen it.
He said, I'm going to chain grab, that's how I prefer to play. And I said, it caught me off guard, but I said, okay, let's do it. And then I quickly had to learn the chain grab, and it really was not intuitive to me.
But don't let this give you the wrong idea about this rivalry. In the end, the rivalry between Lincoln and Lukademus and the rest of the Salisbury Smash scene was one of camaraderie more than anything else. They played to get better, yeah. Lincoln's first major was at SmashCon 2022, the first time he'd get to see the fruits of that labor. Did getting bodied by Lukademus over and over again prepare him for the stresses of a major bracket?
I just didn't have any nerves at all at SmashCon because I just was grinding. I think Luke's a top 100 player, and if I'm close to him, then I could beat almost anybody there. And I just didn't have nerves because I was competing in the locals so often. I was competing in Xanadu so often. And I think like a misconception that people have is that our scene is weak and isolated. And it is a smaller region, but Luke got 48th at SmashCon 2022, and he took a game off Kevin Maples, and I got 65th. I was double eliminated by Joji, and I took a game off him too. And we're both way better now than we were a year ago.
This story isn't just about Lukademus. Since his fateful arrival in Salisbury, Lincoln3 has been playing a similar role for two other players in the Salisbury scene as Lukademus has been playing for Lincoln. Against the aforementioned Rambler, the scene's TO, and Boogaloo, a Falco player, Lincoln is a combined 220 and 16 against his next two common local competitors. This is like the most f***ed up RPS I've ever seen. Lincoln went from placing 65th out of 271 at the mostly local SmashCon Fall Fest in 2021 to placing 65th out of 713 at the major that was SmashCon 2022. That is a massive improvement that he doesn't just attribute to getting to train with Lukademus. Lincoln3's success doesn't just prove the value of getting consistent games against players at a higher level than you, it proves the value of a consistent grind with players of various skill levels and even characters.
I literally just sent Rambler a Discord message yesterday, and I told him that he really has no idea how much he has contributed to my improvement, because he plays Puff and Zelda. And Zelda, the only thing that I have to worry about is back air and forward air. And it really forced me, I mean, through our 80 sets or however many, to really control my habits, and it really grilled into me that I have to be more controlled and disciplined. And I think that's a big contribution to my skill in general and getting better. And to your point about playing against Rambler, I think it helps the scene as a whole, because you mentioned a few minutes ago about kind of this rock, paper, scissors, where like I'll beat Rambler and Boog will beat me. I think he has a better record against me than Rambler does. And Boog actually recently took a game off of Luke himself. So it's like Rambler can play Puff and beat Boog's Falco, but Boog's Falco is going to farm my Sheik someday. So it's just constant, this cycle of everybody taking games off of each other and getting better.
Lincoln may not have had his Lukademus win yet, but here was something that proved those losses weren't completely in vain. The summer of Smash had ended, but Lincoln went right back to the grind. And back, and back, and back again. Lincoln was getting games. He was pushing it to Game 5, but the streak continued. On March 3rd, 2023, Lukademus won Salisbury Weekly number 244, as he usually does. If you were there, you might not have noticed anything historic happened at all. At least not until the end of the final set.
I was in loser side of Grand Finals, so when it happened, I was just so focused on the set that we just went right into, which Rambler still can't believe to this day, that no one popped off, no one did anything. We just went right into the second, set of Grand Finals. And then after that was over, we both took a step back, turned to each other, and Luke gave me a hug. Like, okay, now it's happened.
I don't really know if there's a lesson to be learned from this, honestly, except for keep playing Melee. It's cool, it's fun, and even if you lose 300 times, there is always going to be more Melee to be played. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks again to War Thunder for supporting the channel. It's available now for free on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. You can check out my links to play now, and for a limited time and exclusive to PC and console, new and returning players who haven't played in the last 6 months can get a massive and free bonus pack which includes a bunch of premium goodies. Alright, here's the real credits now, so bye. Hey, what's up everybody? If you couldn't tell from all of the backdating that I did here, this was actually a really old project that I had on the shelf for literal years at this point. I recorded this really fun intro in a studio and probably am not going to be using it. I'm going to let the editor decide on that one. But I had a really fun time with it, and I think it's just a super fun story that deserves all the spotlight in the world. So shoutouts to Lincoln3 and Lukademus and the Salisbury Smash scene for letting me cover it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. Anyway, big thanks to Avishua Stein, Bobby Wasabi, Brent Mukai, Carter Roberts, Dark Gen X, Eric is Cool, Gustavo Cantu Fernandez, James Fabman, Justin Duncan Mills, Kyle Carlin, Marshall Bradley, and Sam Wright. And join the Patreon if you want to be named in the credits. All right, see ya.